Okay.
So that's why I had to go the clunky route with the big long stupid name.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
We good?
If you want to short form it and just say Adam Mills with Royal LePage, that's totally fine.
Sure. Okay.
Or if you want to say the whole big long one, you can go right ahead.
No, that's okay. I'll wing it.
Okay, cool. And then my title would be, if you have to say my title, it'd be broker of record.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
And the recording is not something that you're going to be putting like live on the site, like the visual, or is it?
So we usually go with the audio, but we do have the video backups like on our server that we've been looking at trying to get a YouTube page going. So at some point in the new year, we're probably going to slice and dice some of the videos and take some of the key stuff out. But you look great. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
I'll just make sure I don't pick my nose halfway through. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm recording.
Oh, oops. Yeah. Keep that as a blooper.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. I'm going to get going. Ready?
Yep.
Just going to do a 3 count and then I'm going to start. Hi, everyone. Darren Javog here. Thank you so much for joining us. Getting back at it, getting back on the podcast, doing the Clean Break podcast for everyone who's out there listening to the show. So happy to be back with you. My name is Darren Javog again, and I am here with the always entertaining and amazing Tina Murray.
Good morning, Darren.
Hi, Tina. So we're back at it. It's been a challenging year for some people, and others have had challenging years because they've been just so busy. Mm-hmm. It's been such a busy year for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Who'd have thunk?
I never would have thought about it. But, you know, we've all come out of this, and I think a lot of people have come out better. Some people have had challenges and struggles.
Yeah.
But the good news is we're getting to the other side, and we're back at it. People are listening.
Yep.
They're looking for advice, and we're here to help, right?
That is right. So today,
yes,
we actually have a really cool guest. We've had him on the show before. Adam Mills. He is the broker of record with the Royal LePage Team Realty, Adam Mills Brokerage. So he has actually recently written a book. So I did not know that till today. So welcome to the show, Adam.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's nice to be back on the show again. Good to see your faces. Well, I mean, through Zoom, not in person like last time, but it's great to see you guys again for sure.
Yeah. How are you doing in this world that we're living in right now?
You know what? It's good. I mean, the real estate market right now across the country and in Ottawa specific, of course, too, has been a really strong seller's market. So it's a very fast-paced moving market. You know, price points have risen almost 20% year over year. So, I mean, people who are selling are quite enjoying the process. People who are buying, it's a bit of a struggle. Yes. But I mean, you can still achieve a good result. So from that perspective, I mean, things have been good. You know, the lockdown, everyone had their own, I guess, you know, struggles with that. I certainly, I mean, my kids are 7 and 9, so I played an obscene amount of Monopoly with them, which. But the funny thing was that my 7-year-old, the daughter, would grind me quite a bit and say, you know, Dad, aren't you supposed to be good at this? You're in real estate. Isn't this what you do? Because I consistently would lose to her. So anyways, yeah. So I'm really thankful that real estate's not actually a monopoly, because I'd be terrible at it, apparently.
Looks like you got a future team member there on your hands.
Yeah, you never know. I'm grooming them young to try and get them into the business, you know. So
awesome.
we'll see if it works out.
Awesome, that's great.
So Adam, thanks for being on the show. I got to tell you, I'm surprised. Like realtors, like you just said today, are so busy. I'm really happy that you were able to make time to join us today, because it's just trying to nail down any realtors. It's just been like they're like moving at like Mach 1, you know, like flying around. So
it's like herding cats.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the business, and, you know, maybe just a short story about why you decided to become a real estate agent.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I've been in the business now 11 years. Started out like anyone, I guess. They started out on their own. And then from there started to, you know, progress and grow a team, you know, hire an administrator, and then hire a few different agents that work on the team as well. So now there's a total of 5 of us. All of us are licensed realtors. One of the team members' primary function would be on the admin side. The other 3 licensed realtors are working specifically on the buying side. And then there's myself, who really focuses the bulk of my time on the listing side of things. So I got into, 11 years ago. I've incorporated my own franchise now of Royal LePage, and really the driving force for me 11 years ago was I wanted to get into flipping homes. I thought, I did a flip with a friend of mine. We made a little bit of money, and not actually enough money to buy our girlfriends at the time engagement rings. So that was kind of fun.
Good purchase.
Yeah. It was an investment. But yeah, so did that and thought, wow, you know what, we could totally knock it out of the park and just be, like flippers like you see on TV. That didn't really, I guess once we went through all the math of it and looked at it and said, okay, well, if we didn't have our friends and family all working constantly for free, we probably wouldn't have made money doing this. So that really changed my angle on it. But anyways, got into real estate and haven't looked back, or I haven't flipped a house since, but I've just loved, dialoguing, working with clients through, whatever they're looking to achieve lifestyle wise. And just really enjoy the process.
Right.
Great.
Well, our show is about divorce, and the podcast is called Clean Break. So I'm really interested to hear about your new book that you published recently, and it is called Navigating Selling Through Separation.
That's right.
Interesting that this would be a book that would just get published. So tell me a little bit about, when did you start thinking that this was something you needed to do, and a little bit about the book.
So it was something that I was at a conference this past March before COVID was kind of, dropped on us. And I met a realtor out in the Calgary area, and he had written a book that was in line with divorce. And he said, I wrote this 10 years ago. I found in the Calgary market, there was no good resources out there. Lawyers were always looking for information. And I looked at him, I'm like, that's a really, good idea, because I don't feel like there's any kind of resource or tool in the Ottawa market either for that. So, brought that back and really started just, putting pen to paper and writing it at that point in time. I consulted with a couple of different, family law lawyers, mediators, some accountants, mortgage folk as well, to put together what I would say. I mean, it's not a comprehensive guide that's going to answer every question you could ever have. But it's a book that would give you a very good roadmap on, okay, if I am going to look at divorce or separation, what can I, what does that process look like? What can I do with my home? Like, what are the three big options I can do with my home? Whether I sell it, I want to, we keep it, co-ownership, the different options that we talk about quite a bit. And then from there, I put the last half of the book to be something that, it's just a guide for anyone that's looking at selling a home. It walks you through, what renovations you could look at doing that have the highest payback, what staging tips you might have, and then how the actual selling process works. So to me, it's an overall, just kind of guide, high level guide to give people a sense on, what can they do with their home, and then if they want to sell it, great. Here's kind of the general process that we would follow if we were selling the home.
Yeah, I like that.
Interesting.
I like that. I think a lot of times, anytime when someone's dealing with a professional, real estate, mortgage, financial, sometimes they don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So to them, it's like a one pager. It's like, oh, I got this five check box checklist to do, and boom, I'm done. It's all finished, right? So I think quite often they don't see all the work involved getting to that stage of being able to say, okay, did we do this, and this?
Yeah.
So I really like the idea. And I truly believe that today it's about knowledge. It's about sharing and imparting knowledge without having some type of a catch, because it's just, that's the environment now. There's so much information online, but they need someone to kind of put it all together. So it's really nice to hear you doing that for people.
Well, yeah, I mean, Google's a scary place. I mean, if you start, like searching for things, I mean, you can go down like some really weird rabbit holes and find information that's just going to terrify you. And that could, be false and or not relevant. I mean, a lot of the laws for separation and divorce, I mean, they're province specific. So if you're reading stuff about, the process of in Quebec, I mean, that may or may not be applicable to what the situation is in Ontario.
Right.
So to me, I think people need to, if you're going to research, and I think researching is important, but at least make sure that, where you're pulling information from is relevant and fairly well fact checked. So I think that's an important piece to it.
Absolutely. I mean, just saying that the other day I was talking about liras actually with my husband. And so he was under the impression one thing was going to happen with his lira when he turns 55. And so I sort of, just to back up my knowledge, I was looking online and I was like, I literally wrote lira in Ontario and I had UK stuff. And I'm like, so if you don't, if you just assume that you've gone to the right place, then that information could be completely incorrect. So I like that idea. Can people get the book online or is it only hard copy? Okay.
Yeah, well, so online, I have it on my website where you can preview the first chapter. And if you want to buy it off the site, you can.
Okay.
And I'm not really trying to push like a bunch of book sales. That's not the goal.
Yeah.
But for people who just don't want to talk to us and just want information, then they can buy it. We'll mail it to them, and then it stays very confidential that way.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly people want to set up a meeting with us and just discuss their situation. I mean, we're just giving those people the book for free, as a resource for them. And if it works for them, great. And if it doesn't, then there's no harm, no foul on that. And also with a few lawyers. Sorry, I was going to say with a couple of lawyers too, we're giving them copies of the book to use as a resource because, again, speaking with them, they just didn't have a resource that they could provide their clients walking in their office.
Yeah, that's awesome. So give us a few sort of highlights, from the book itself, like some of those tips that you've put in it.
Yeah, like what did you learn most?
Yeah.
Like a couple things that you learned most when writing the book.
Yeah.
Writing the book, I mean, a lot of the stuff was surrounding, again, the big three of what you can do with your matrimonial home. Like what options do you have in front of you? I mean, and that's stuff that I know we have quite a bit of content on the DivorceNet site about those items. But it was more, I'd say more on the legal side, on how assets can be divided and how that actually happens. It's different province by province. And that I didn't know. So, speaking with a family law lawyer to figure out, are things divided in an equitable manner or not? Like how does that actually play out? So that was really interesting. And then from there, I mean, again, it was just kind of compiling my thoughts on, when we're meeting and working with a seller, how do we go from meeting number one to analyzing and viewing their home to getting them sold? What does that process look like for them? And how can we shave out as much of the stress points? Because certainly people going through a separation or a divorce, I mean, there's already a huge layer of stress and emotional strain at the same time. So you don't necessarily want to add too much more to that. So it's a matter of, how can we streamline this process to make it so we're not, creating, more strain, more stress than we actually, need to. So those were some of the big things. And then certainly, I mean, doing some research on just general divorce statistics. I was pretty blown away at just, the divorce rate in Canada and how many, I guess, the number of divorced people in the country, from the year 2000, I think went from 1.8 million to 2020 is up to 2.7 million. So, I mean, that's a 40% increase over those 20 years. I mean, it's sizable, so there's a lot more divorce or separation taking place, which means, and again, when you search for stuff, and we have clients walking into our office asking questions, and there's literally no good content I couldn't really find out there. So to me, I thought it was important to try and compile it into, again, it's a high level guide. I mean, you still need a lawyer, you still need to talk to an accountant, you still need someone on the mortgage industry as well. But at least it gives you a general roadmap or guide to kind of follow. So at least you have a starting point.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've always found when it comes to the marital house, and I was just mentioning this to Tina actually before we started this podcast, is I find when I first started in the industry as a divorce analyst, I would try to sugarcoat things, try to make it look the best I could for them.
Right.
But the longer I did it, the more I realized I got to cut to the chase. I got to peel back the emotional part of it and get right to the logical part, because sometimes people are in a fog. They're in this emotional fog where they're having trouble making a decision about things. And the marital house was probably one of the most contentious things there.
Absolutely.
Because you're having all those beautiful memories, there's an attachment to I did the paint in this room and I did this to this part of the house. So people get really ingrained in trying to keep it or fight over it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and then you kind of lose like the logic, you lose focus on, okay, if you actually step back and look at this from like a financial perspective, does it make sense to have one person's salary have to carry that home
Yeah.
and be solely responsible for it? And I know you can look at the co-ownership, route where one person moves out, one person would stay. But the issue with that is, I mean, the person who's moved out is still going to be, financially responsible if anything goes wrong. So how long do you want to do that for? And is that putting everyone, the whole entity in a good financial or legal situation or not? I mean, it's ultimately, I think, as much as keeping kids in the same school and keeping them in their same bedrooms and all those emotional pieces, sometimes, you might try to do it, but you create such a financial stress on yourself that it actually just creates more bad than good.
And,
so I think it's
there's no
looking
finite.
logically at it.
Yeah, and there's no finite, like there's no definitive result. It's like, oh, we're still in this purgatory of still co-owning the house and stuff.
And then aside from the children, because there'll always, if there's children involved, there's always going to be that emotional attachment. But aside from the children, which is obviously huge, there's going to still always be that emotional attachment, right, to that house if you co-own it for infinity, right? Like it's just, there's no division, there's no separate, there's no true line.
I got a question for you, Adam. Do you have now I've heard this in the past, sometimes when there's very contentious situations going on where one partner might think the other's taking advantage of them, or I don't want to use this real estate agent because he's your friend or something like that. Do you ever get into situations where like you'd represent one party and the other party might have another realtor or something like that, or do you do that in your firm?
Yeah, so a lot of times that will be the case. Someone might have, and I find a lot of times if the couple has a close friend who's a realtor, they typically don't use that realtor because they feel like there's too much bias that could be there. So a lot of times we'll end up, we'll come in, we'll meet with the people going through the separation and divorce. I'll be the one primarily listing a home, but then when both parties, if they're looking at renting or buying, or one of each, whatever it happens to be, because we have 3 other realtors on our team that work on the buying and renting side, we'll pair each person with an individual realtor of their own. So they feel like they're only dealing with one person, and they're not dealing with me then on that purchase or renting side as well. So it does give that separation, allows them to then embark on that new kind of, I guess, journey or lifestyle with their own individual realtor, which I think is really important. I think to have one agent sell a house and then help 2 people find a home to buy or rent, I think there's a lot of information that you're going to be passing back and forth that they may not want to have funnel through one individual, right? So it's nice to have that separation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Very true. Okay, so that's good. So anything you want to wrap up with? We're getting close to about 20 minutes, but thank you for sharing all that information. And you said they can find it on your website, the book, right?
Yeah, show us the book. You showed it to us.
Oh, yeah. So there, that's the front cover of the book there, on the back.
Awesome.
And
it's just shy of about it's shy of 100 pages. I mean, I jokingly, I'll admit I'm not a reader. So when I was writing this thing, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to write something that's like fairly concise, because if it's more than 60, 70 pages, I know I would not read it. So I tried to make it as concise as possible so that people with attention spans like me can actually get through it. So I tried to make it as to the point as I could.
I like it. No, that's a good idea too. And I think with what we've learned this year, with people's attention spans are definitely getting shorter, and they want all the juice, but they don't want to take the time to squeeze the lemon, right? Exactly. They want it right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But to that point, like you watch some videos and things on YouTube. There's actually a way now to watch videos in a fast forward motion, so you can watch them at 1.5 times speed. So you can still hear what they're saying, but they're talking in like high pitched, squeaky voices.
Oh my God.
And they do that because, again, people want to shrink a 2-minute video into 1 minute and 15 seconds because that's their attention span.
Wow,
Wow.
that's scary.
It's
Actually,
actually
that's scary.
ridiculous. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
scary.
That's
Yeah,
scary.
it is
I think that's
pretty funny.
the big draw of TikTok, right? Is that
Yeah.
they've taken basically what Instagram and some of these other platforms have done, and they've crunched it down and said,
Yeah.
okay, if it's any longer than 30 seconds, you can't be on the platform,
Yeah.
right?
And then
No.
you can, but then oh, that's a whole new
Yeah.
rabbit trail. We're not talking about TikTok. Because it literally is a rabbit trail. You
Yeah.
just,
Well, Adam,
Yeah.
I'm amazed that you actually had the time to write that book. I'm very impressed. I got to tell you.
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Good. So look, going forward, people will be able to reach out to you through the website. You have a member profile page on DivorceNet. They'll be able to reach out to you through that, and all the other incredible members that we have on the site. And as well, why don't you give everyone your website or your coordinates so they can get a hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. So my website is ottawaishome.com. So should be easier to remember if you live in Ottawa and it's your home. That's my website, ottawaishome.com.
I love it. That's
Awesome.
great.
Awesome.
Thanks
Excellent.
for
Well,
being
thanks
with
so
us.
much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. It's great to see you again and great to be back.
Yeah. Looking forward to reading your book. Actually, I think I will subscribe and get a copy online.
Yeah, and
Perfect. Sounds good.
we'll get the link from you and we'll put it on the DivorceNet site as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks, Adam.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
That was great.